Today's video is all about a comparison between these two cameras right here. In this hand I'm holding the brand new DJI Action 2, and in this hand I'm holding the brand new GoPro Hero 10. I've put both of these cameras through an extensive side-by-side testing. In today's video I'm going to tell you what's similar about these two cameras and what's different. I'm also going to show you quite a bit of footage that I filmed so that you can see the visual and audio quality differences between these two cameras. Let's get started. So to start off, let's talk about price with these two cameras. The DJI Action 2 with the front screen module, which also contains the battery, goes for $519. DJI is releasing another version of the 2 later on in November that'll cost $399. The difference is it'll include the battery module down here, but that battery module will not have the front-facing screen. So for $120 less, you can get the battery module. There just will not be the screen on it. The GoPro Hero 10, meanwhile, retails for $499 if you are not a GoPro subscriber. If you are a GoPro subscriber, the cost for the Hero 10 is $399. And it's worth noting the GoPro subscription costs $49.99 a year. So in other words, you will save $50 just by signing up for the GoPro subscription for a year if you want to get that $399 price instead of the $499. So at that point, it would cost you $449. The benefits of the GoPro subscription is it does offer unlimited cloud storage for all your GoPro footage, and it does have an auto upload feature. I've tested it out and it does work pretty well. In addition to that, GoPro subscription does offer you up to 50% off accessories, as well as one no questions asked replacement of the GoPro camera. DJI offers a different plan that goes along with their camera, but there is not a discount for getting that. It's called DJI Care Refresh. You can purchase that for $36 for 2 years or $25 for 1 year. This plan does allow you to get up to 3 camera replacements over the course of 2 years. Next, let's talk about the price of the batteries. The GoPro Hero 10 does have removable batteries. They look like this right here. These batteries cost $19.99. In addition, GoPro recently announced they're going to be releasing the Enduro battery, which is supposed to provide up to 30% longer battery life in both cold weather and normal operating conditions. And that battery is going to retail for $24.99. But if you are a GoPro subscriber, the battery will have a 20% reduction in price. So it will end up costing the same as the battery in here. It'll be $19.99. The Action 2, on the other hand, does not have a removable battery, but does have these modules. The battery module without the screen does cost $75 each. And if you buy the battery module with screen, those cost $169 each. So the batteries for the DJI Action 2 are significantly higher in price than the GoPro Hero 10. And it is worth noting that the battery module on the Action 2 and the battery on the GoPro do offer approximately the same recording time when recording in the same resolution and frame rate. Next, let's talk about the resolutions that these two cameras offer. The highest resolution the Action 2 is capable of is 4K with a frame rate of 120. The highest resolution the Hero 10 is capable of is 5.3K at 60 frames per second. The Hero 10 does also offer a 4K 120 mode. Next, let's talk about these lens covers. The lens cover on the Hero 10 is replaceable in case you scratch it or damage it, such as if you drop the camera or run into something. When you're immersed in action, accidents do happen with these cameras, so it is nice to have the option to replace the lens. The lens also detaches pretty easily here, and this lens costs $19.99 to replace. The Action 2, on the other hand, does not have a replaceable lens. If you run into something or scratch this lens, you are not able to replace it. In other words, you would have to replace the entire camera module. Size-wise, when you have the module connected, these are both approximately the same size. The GoPro is slightly wider when it's lined up like this, but otherwise they are about the same dimensions, and the weight of these is also very similar. The GoPro Hero 10 weighs slightly more than the Action 2 when the module is connected, but not a whole lot more. Now the Action 2, if you're using just this camera module without the extra screen and battery, it of course is going to be significantly smaller than the Hero 10. However, it's worth noting this only has built-in storage of 22.4 gigabytes, and you are not able to put a MicroSD card in here. In addition, the built-in battery in here doesn't last very long. It'll last about 20 to 30 minutes at most, and that's if you're filming in a lower resolution and frame rate. What exactly is waterproof on these two cameras? The Hero 10 is entirely waterproof down to 30 meters. You don't have to put any special external cage on it. You can take this camera as is, you can submerge it in water, it can get rained on, it can get snowed on, it's waterproof. The Action 2, on the other hand, only this part right here is waterproof. Once you add on the module, it becomes no longer waterproof because this part down here with the screen and the battery and where you put your MicroSD card on the back here is not waterproof. So that is really important to note. DJI may release some type of external cage for this that will make it waterproof, but until then, this is not waterproof. Speaking of MicroSD slots, the MicroSD slot on the Hero 10 is located right here inside the battery door. It's right here along the side. On the Action 2, there is no MicroSD card slot on here. The MicroSD card slot is going to be found in the battery module or the screen module. It's located down here at the very bottom, and it does not have a door that covers it, it's just there. So if you're using just the camera module with the 22.4 gigabytes of internal storage, if you're shooting in 4K 120, that's gonna fill up really fast. You can fit approximately 15 to 18 minutes max of the 4K 120 footage on there before it fills up. Next, let's talk about the topic of overheating with these cameras. They're both action cameras, so they are both going to have the scenarios under which they overheat. Let's talk about the Hero 10 first. So the Hero 10 did have some reports of overheating when it was first released, but those reports were exclusively to the camera being stationary, while being used indoors, while shooting in a high resolution and high frame rate. On November 2nd of this year, GoPro did release new firmware that allows you to set the Hero 10 into stationary tripod mode. What that does is that turns off hypersmooth and it disables the GPS. It also allows you to film longer in the high resolution and high frame rate modes before the camera will overheat. In fact, several people have reported after installing that firmware that they have had this going hours inside with it plugged in without it overheating. Using the Hero 10 outdoors in 5.3K 60 or 4K 120 has presented zero issues for me. And I've had the camera recording continuously in those modes for lengthy durations of time. It does get warm, but it does not flash the overheating message and it keeps going. Let's talk about overheating on here. If you run this camera in the 4K 120 mode indoors and stationary, it will overheat after just a couple minutes. It'll flash the overheating message and it will power off. If you're using it outdoors in 4K 120, it will also overheat. It'll go a little bit longer. I was able to get about 5 to 6 minutes while recording continuously in 4K 120 before it flashed that overheating message and powered off. And DJI openly acknowledges this. On their website, they have the following message. When recording 4K 120 frames per second, Action 2 will stop filming when the set auto stop rec temperature is reached. If set as standard, 4K 120 frames per second video can be recorded for around 3 minutes. If set to high, 4K 120 frames per second video can be recorded for around 5 minutes. So when it comes to overheating, the GoPro Hero 10 is the clear winner on that. Especially now that GoPro has released that firmware that makes it much easier to set the mode for stationary tripod. And the fact that the camera can be used in an even higher resolution than the Action 2 without overheating outdoors. And 4K 120 outdoors, recorded continuously with this, zero overheating. Next, let's talk about stabilization on these. Both cameras have their own version of stabilization. On the Hero 10, it's called Hypersmooth. On the Action 2, it's called Rocksteady. In addition, both cameras do offer their own horizon stabilization mode. On the Hero 10, you have to use linear when using that mode, which does feature an additional crop. On the GoPro Hero 10, it's called horizon leveling. And on the Action 2, it's called Horizon Steady. Now the key difference with that horizon feature on these is horizon leveling on the Hero 10 will work up to 45-degree tilt before you lose it. But on the Action 2, it does work all the way around. So on the Action 2, the Horizon Steady would be more equivalent to the max lens mod on the Hero 10. When it comes to keeping the horizon level, the Action 2 is the winner with that. You're able to take the camera like this all the way around, and it's still going to keep the horizon level. Now in normal use, I don't find myself tilting the camera more than 45 anyway. It is worth noting that on the Hero 10, you cannot yet use the max lens mod. GoPro announced this when the Hero 10 was released, and they stated that they would have a firmware update, most likely coming in November, that would offer the max lens mod compatibility. So until then, the horizon leveling is limited to a 45-degree tilt on the Hero 10. Now when it comes to modes the cameras offer, both cameras do offer a photo mode, a time-lapse mode, and a hyperlapse mode. And the settings on these are very similar. They essentially have all of the same settings that you can customize on those. But it is worth noting, if you're gonna be doing a time-lapse or a night-lapse with either of these cameras, the Hero 10 is fully waterproof. You can leave it out there, it can get rained on, snowed on, it's not gonna hurt it. And if you have this little USB pass-through door like I do, you can plug in your external power right here, and that will still keep it waterproof. The Action 2, on the other hand, is not waterproof unless you have this, but the camera module cannot be plugged in, and you cannot add a MicroSD card. So if you have this out there doing a time lapse or a night lapse, you're going to be severely limited by the amount of time you can keep it set up. However, once you connect the module, you do have the MicroSD card, and you can plug it in via USB-C right here. But just keep in mind, this is not waterproof. So if it does rain or snow on your camera in the night, or there's a heavy dew, it could damage this. It is also worth noting that for the time-lapse and night-lapse mode on the Hero 10, you do have to pick photo mode or video mode. But on the Action 2, it is possible to combine both of those modes together. On here, you can set it to record a video time-lapse while also keeping the raw photos. So that is a neat feature that the Action 2 offers. You can get the best of both worlds in one. I will note that I've tested both of these cameras extensively on time lapses, and the quality of the time lapse and video mode from the Hero 10, in my opinion, is much better than a time lapse from the Action 2. For color modes, the Action 2 does offer 2 color modes to choose from, and the Hero 10 offers 3 to choose from. On the Action 2, there's the standard color mode, which would be equivalent to the vibrant color mode on the Hero 10. Previous Hero cameras, the vibrant mode was simply called GoPro. So this would be that color mode that's got a good bit of saturation to it. The other mode available in the Action 2 is the D-Cine-like mode. The D-Cine-like is going to be comparable to the flat mode on the Hero 10. This is going to be the mode that offers you a lot more flexibility when color correcting at the editing stage. The third mode on the Hero 10 is the natural mode. And this basically is the mode where the footage should look like what you're actually seeing. It shouldn't be oversaturated and it shouldn't be flat. It's kind of that middle of the road mode. Next, let's talk about lenses on these. Now, both cameras do offer similar lens options. Both have a form of ultra wide. On the GoPro, it's called Super View, and on the Action 2, it's called ultra wide. Both also have a wide view, and then both have a linear type of view. On the Action 2, the linear view is called standard D-warp. On the Hero 10, it's called linear. The Hero 10 does also have an additional mode that's a pretty tight crop. It's called narrow. Now, it is notable that the lens on the Action 2 is wider than the lens on the Hero 10. The lens is 155 degrees on the Action 2, but on the Hero 10, it only goes up to 132 degrees. So technically in all of those modes, you are going to get a wider field of view, even in the standard D-warp on the Action 2, than you will in linear mode, or wide mode, or super view on the Hero 10. But in the next item I'm going to talk about, that isn't necessarily an advantage of the Action 2. So let's talk about how that footage actually looks. I'm going to show you several tests here of footage I filmed with these cameras side by side. I had them both set to all of the same exact settings. So in each of these samples, it's the same resolution, the same frame rate, the same ISO min, the same ISO max, the same white balance, etc. That way you can get an accurate view of what both of these look like. So let's take a look at that footage now. So one thing I noticed right away with that footage is the footage taken on the Action 2, it's very soft on the edges. Versus the footage on the Hero 10, it's pretty sharp all the way out to all of the edges and corners. I found myself not liking the footage from the Action 2. It was way too soft on the edges. And the way Rocksteady works, it does weird stuff with that stabilization along the edges. It almost is a dizzying effect looking at it. The stabilization on the Hero 10 I feel is more refined throughout the whole frame of view. I also did a little bit of low light and indoor filming, and I'm going to show you those samples here so you can see the differences. For the low light indoor filming, I definitely give the advantage to the Hero 10. The footage looked a lot better, it looked quite a bit less grainy, and it was much better lit. And it is worth noting I have not edited any of this footage. This footage is straight out of the camera. And finally, I'm going to show you a couple samples here so that you can listen to hear what audio is like from the Hero 10 versus audio from the Action 2. Doing some 4K 24 frames per second filming now. 4K 24, of course, is available on both cameras, and I've got both in wide mode right now, so I'm not doing linear. Could do linear on both, and it would do a little bit tighter crop, but I'm just testing out the 4K 24. This is a great time to do some audio test, so you're going to see some audio at the bottom. I'm going to label which one the audio is coming from. I kind of expect the DJI to do a little bit better with audio because of the mic placement. However, the GoPro could surprise me, so we'll see on that. GoPro does have quite a few mics here below the lens, and the DJI kind of has them spread throughout. The bottom module with the screen does have some additional mics on it, so we'll see how well those mics pick up when the camera's facing toward me. So after listening and re-listening to these clips several times, the audio is pretty similar on both of these. When I'm filming in the wind, the audio does sound better out of the Hero 10 than out of the Action 2. But even when it's not windy, I do think there's a slight edge given to the Hero 10. However, it's very difficult to pinpoint that exact difference. The sound is pretty good out of both of these when not in windy situations. I hope you found all these comparisons between the Hero 10 and the Action 2 to be helpful. These cameras are both competitors in the action camera realm. I hope these comparisons will help you make an informed decision if you're looking to purchase one of these cameras. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave those in the comments below. If you found this video to be useful, please slam that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe and bell notification button so that you can be notified every time I publish a new video.